Actually, I could have strategically placed mine there and done it, but not really that anal about it. Just can't spooky no more.
The speaker needs to be.
Perfect. Can't see you because of the microphone thing, which is absolutely even more perfect. It's a nice doorbell.
Hopefully you can hear him on there then.
Boogie no
Are you
more.
recording it?
What I could do.
Yeah, if you can.
Is that not really the right angle? Would you rather I put it there? Well, you wouldn't then be able to see us, really. I guess it doesn't matter, does it, if we can see the screen or not? Because you'll be able to screenshot or record it live, surely.
Yeah.
Can you record as you're going, or is that not really a done thing?
No, I'm going to record
Oh, are you now?
as much as I can.
Yeah, it's classic bar show-off material, isn't it, really? Listen to the music. Right. Counting down to the John Cleese interview. Moment of a lifetime. Max doesn't even know who he is. Oh dear. They're bound to be late, to be honest.
Tiny interview.
I don't think it'll be easy for them to keep time. It's going to run over a minute, 2 minutes this one. Well, I think we're last, aren't we? Which was probably a good thing. He's got nothing else to do, we'll just carry on.
I'm not sure we were last
I
time.
have a feeling, I recall her saying I've got you in on the last slot, so that there's no one to follow up.
Okay. Aha.
Recording in progress.
Start video. Unmute.
Unmute. You've unmuted. Well done.
Got there in the end.
You're not on your ready. Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yes, we are good.
Can you even hear me?
Yeah, Mr. Cleese hearing me.
You hear me all right?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, good.
Is there an
Lady down there called Ray. What are you doing here, Ray?
I'm part of the team, but I'm in Bangkok, and our other colleagues there in Pattaya.
Ah, good. But you're not going to sing?
Oh no, well I can sing if you like, but I might clear the room.
Sing.
Well, I wish you a Merry Christmas.
Oh, I don't know that one.
Oh, good. I'm so happy that you're coming to Bangkok. I tell you, after 2 years of lockdowns and curfews and no alcohol, we can all do with a good laugh here, that's for sure.
I'm looking forward to it because I think you have the best hotels in the world.
Yes.
Adore Thai food. And my wife used to have a jewellery business, and she used to have all her jewellery made in Thailand.
Yeah, it's one of the top places in the world for that.
Always coming back because she used to come here as part of her business.
Yeah. I think the audiences in Asia, and particularly Thailand, love to have you here because you've been here some years ago, I recall. But it's been a while, I think, before the last visit.
Well, I don't remember. You see, I play so many places, and if I'm on a tour, I go from one to the next before I ever have time to see where I am.
Yes.
But I tour a lot in America, and Canada, and Australia. I don't tour the UK because the press is so unpleasant that they make everything unpleasant. But in the places that I do tour a lot, which is America, for example, I sometimes realize that I played a town and I've forgotten all about it because all I saw was the hotel and the theatre and the airport.
And it's all a blur. I mean,
But
it's
listen, now, who are these people? There's a guy here called Max.
Hi there.
See the one who looks like Eric Morgan?
Oh no, that's me. You must be referring to me. I especially put on my Eric Morgans today for this occasion. No, I'm David. That's Max.
Max, tell me, who's got the K? Are you K Thompson or is it Max K? It's a K floating around here.
Yeah, so Maxwell Kimberly Thompson. When I was younger, my mum and dad put their surnames together and created this brand new name to the world
Oh,
that
I
no one else has got.
You're Max Kimberly, so who is the agent Eric Morgan?
David Morecambe Smith. My mum and dad did the same thing, although my dad's name wasn't Morecambe, funnily enough.
Not very wise.
What? Dad's name was what?
Wasn't Morecambe. I'm not, to be honest, I don't remember my dad's name.
Oh, that's a bit sad. Yeah, so,
Well,
well,
I think you're not that old, are you?
Just about to turn 53 in a couple of weeks.
You wait till you're 82, then your memory will be completely gone. I have my own name tattooed on the inside of my wrist, so when I say, oh, hello, who are you? I can just have a quick.
I shall be very happy if I make it to 82, to be honest.
oh gosh, yeah. I mean, and what I find so wonderful is that the other day I was talking to both my sons who are like early 20s and they've just discovered Monty Python. They asked me, said, Mum, have you ever seen this Monty Python stuff? It's so funny. And then I said, wow, isn't it great that even now with kids now, it's what you did and all the humor that you're involved in is still so relevant and still so funny.
People have to figure out what it is that was so different. But I think the word that sums it up is silly. Most comedy now, it's perfectly sensible, it's funny. You know, Americans on television now producing very, very good comedy. But very little of it is silly. Very little is people slapping each other's faces with fish. Or opening a cheese shop that doesn't have any cheese at all in it. You don't get that kind of humor. And people, when I go to America in particular, people who are unfortunate enough to grow up in the Midwest, where of course nothing happens, nobody has passports, nobody's been anywhere. And suddenly they saw this thing that was so different, anything else they'd ever seen in their life, and it lit a little fire. You see what I mean? They suddenly found, oh, I love this. I didn't know it existed.
Yeah.
A lot of people have helped me for Python in particular, just saying thank you for not just making me laugh, but thank you for forming my sense of humor. Because they hadn't seen that kind of stuff. You didn't know it existed. And when they saw it, they loved it.
And the silliness though, a lot of the times these silly things we can't do anymore. I mean, it's become so PC, there's such an absurd culture in a lot of the world today. I mean, does that give you good fodder for your comedy or does it just frustrate the hell out of you?
I sometimes tweet things that I think are funny, but I'm doing a television program about the woke phenomenon. But it's huge, and it seems to me to come from a sort of overprotectiveness. Yeah. Parents need to protect their children, but we all know if they're overprotected, it's not good for the children. They grow up more easily upset, and if they have setbacks, they find it takes longer to recover from them. In fact, the cognitive behavioral therapists, who are a very smart, competent professional group, they work with young people to reduce their anxiety, depression, and they say that what they do is the complete opposite of what the woke people are advocating. lot of it is about sex. And in the old days, well, there was a lot of prejudice. There's always prejudice. It's a very, very unsatisfactory planet. And all we can do is to try and work to make it a little bit better. I'm all in favour of that. I don't think there's any time in history where people are being really kind to anyone else. You know, people go on about the imperialism and what the British Empire, what a terrible thing it was. And we say, yes, but the empire was the form of political organisation for about the first 6,000 years of human history. That was what it was. There weren't democracies. You see what I mean? There weren't any other kind of democracies. It was all empires, and it was whoever had the power bullied people who didn't have power. And everybody behaved badly. And the slaves were appallingly treated. But if you realize what the punishments were for British sailors in the Navy, where they would tie them with ropes and then literally throw them over the wall and let them slide down the side of the boat, under the boat and up the other side, keeping the ropes as tight as possible so that their flesh was being torn by all the barnacles under the water on the boat. That was a punishment.
Wow, the keel holding.
Yes. 50 lashes so that there was no more flesh left on their shoulders. Well, people were brutal to each other, and it was horrible. But there's no need to base our society on who was slightly more brutal than who.
Yeah.
That's very true. I mean, you called your tour is Why There Is No Hope. I mean, do you feel there is no hope, or as we approach
I do, but I don't think there's ever been any real hope that we will live in a kind, intelligent, well-organized society. Some things get better. In my lifetime, the one thing that's got better is that women are now having more influence, more power, being listened to properly, and believe it or not, some countries actually treated as equals.
Yeah.
Not, I think, in the Islamic countries, but you know, and a lot of it, there is a lot of equality. There's not enough. There will never be enough, but you know, that's improved. But there are so many things in the worst, because I grew up in England that was really quite calm, and people had a sense of humor, and they were a little bit stoical. You know what I mean? They didn't complain much. And they grumbled a bit here and there and had a good laugh. They didn't take themselves so serious. Now, a lot of that sort of fundamentally British attitude to life, English attitude, because it was more characteristic of the English than a lot of the Welsh or Scots or Irish. But that's rather gone, and I think that that's a loss. If you look at the programs that the BBC was making 40 years ago, they're very much more intelligent than the programs that we're making now. I think the BBC's main output now, apart from costume drama, is dancing and baking.
Or maybe a combo.
Or a combo of the two, exactly. I mean, Max, I know you had a couple of questions you wanted to throw out there, not just me.
Yeah, what do you want to ask?
Oh, well, I was just thinking, really, I'd love to hear maybe delve into your memories about what it was like creating some of these things. You know, when you're sat in a room with these creative people and you're coming up with ideas, and suddenly you've got that idea that you know or you think is going to work, or you just want to see out there in the world. What's it like being in that room at that moment? That's what I'm
Well,
really.
it helps to be with a group of people, because trying to be funny and tailing is about as embarrassing as they get, except the English batting in the last test. And if you've got a few people around you, you know, I think this is what happens with bands, that at the beginning they cling together for warmth and comfort, and then as they become more successful, then they don't feel quite so, ooh, what's going to happen, you know, they feel more confident. That's where the conflicts start coming in the groups. But with us, we knew each other a little bit, and we liked each other, and the main thing was we thought each other was funny. But when we went to see the BBC, and he said, I understand you'd like to do a series, and we said we'd like that. And the head of BBC Comedy said, well, what do you propose doing? We couldn't tell him because we hadn't discussed it. I mean, that is completely balmy. But when they gave us the series anyway, which is one of the most extraordinary acts in TV history, we sat down to write. We sat down to say, well, what are we going to do? And we didn't get it. And after about 3 sessions, Terry Jones said, well, let's just go home and work and write. So he went home and to South London. Michael, his writing partner, went to North London, and they wrote on their own. They talked over the phone. Eric always worked on his own. Chapman and I always worked in the same room. And we wrote some stuff, and we just wrote what amused us, because we'd always had these ideas in the past, but if we did them, the director or producer would always say, yeah, very funny boys, but they won't get it in Bradford. Probably true. It was probably true that it wasn't the sort of humour that would go down in Bradford. But there were enough people who did think it was funny, and it turned out we didn't know that. And when we got together after the first week's writing and read stuff out, we started laughing at stuff. We thought, well, maybe it is funny. And when we did the first show, I remember standing in the wings, and I said to Michael Bain, and it just occurred to me, we could be the first comedy show in history to be recorded in complete silence. And Michael said I was having the same thought. So he had no idea whether it would work, and he would never do. The things that are big hits are very frequently out of the blue. The great problem is that everything costs so much now, and the executives are so terrified of being fired that they only want to do retreads of what they've already done, because they feel it's safer. And I've written a film now, which is a light comedy about cannibalism, which I think is probably the funniest thing I've ever written. And I'm not sure I'll ever get the money to make it. Because the executives, I'm not kidding you, very, very few of them have any idea what they're doing. But it's not like tennis. If you're no good at tennis, you get beaten 6-0, 6-0, 6-0. But if you're no good at making decisions about television, you've got to always talk yourself out and say, well, with those stars it should have worked, or it was raining a lot that day. You know what I mean? Always, there was no definite way of measuring anything, except, of course, audience figures, which means that you always go down the mark, because there are always more people who are not so good. And so you do things like dancing and baking, because that appeals to them, rather than doing TV drama this week, which means people have got to listen and figure out the plots.
Oh God, it's a crazy world. I mean, but despite all that, you still love what you do, don't you?
I like making people laugh. Everybody knows that. If you get a laugh, you feel good. The other people feel good. The sense that you're part of a group. There's an acceptance all the way around, not just of the person making the joke, but all the people laughing with it. It's a lovely, harmonizing experience to laugh with people. And there's also something completely spontaneous about it, because it's hard to fake a laugh. I mean, you can fake a laugh socially, but when you really laugh at something that strikes you as hilarious, and the people around you laugh, there's a tremendous sense of emotional connection with those people. We have a very good playwright called Tom Stoppard, and he said recently the shortest distance between two people is a laugh.
I love that.
And I love that.
Yeah. And laughter is infectious, and I think one of the things because I put up that I was interviewing today, and someone said it'd be interesting to know, do you think if there was almost like a group therapy you could go to where laughter was the medicine, and you could have arguments and it was fun and it was engaging, and that would help you know, cure some of these negativities. I think, but that laughter being a medicine, I
Yeah,
like that.
exactly. And if you look at it, people think that humor's critical, and that's true. You can't be funny about people who are perfect. You see what I mean? We've got somebody there who's appropriate, kind, generous, intelligent. You can't be funny about it. So it's about foibles. But instead of getting serious about it, say, well, they're pretty hopeless bunch, human beings. They don't really know what they're doing most of the time, even if they pretend they do. And once you accept that we are a hopeless bunch, there's no harm in pointing out we're a hopeless bunch. If it is done with affection.
Yeah.
So there's two types of two types, not sneezing, I wish there were. Two types of teasing.
Yes.
One is affectionate and one is nasty. And nasty teasing is very nasty and people shouldn't do it. But affectionate teasing, pulling each other's legs, is sort of making jokes about each other, but with great affection. It's a bonding mechanism. As anyone knows who's been in the sports dressing room, that's what goes on. Sort of just gentle teasing, people trying to score points off each other. And if somebody makes a particularly good joke, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when Warren Shane, who was a bowler, said for South Africa, he'd never bowled him before. He said, I've been waiting for 2 years to bowl to you, and the South African batsman said to him, looks as though you spent them eating.
Yeah.
It would have gone down well with Shane Warne.
And everybody laughed, including
Everybody.
your team.
Yes. Yeah, it's our Aussie tradition too.
I can speak from experience on that one, having met him a few times.
Yeah.
It's not the eating, it's the drinking.
What?
I can see someone winding us up there.
Yes, I'm sorry, we got the next interview up right now.
No,
Yeah.
Well, thank you, I really enjoyed talking to you guys.
Likewise.
So wonderful.
It's
Thank
been a
you.
lifetime ambition for me, sir, I can assure you.
Good, well, come along on the 11th.
I will, we will be there for
We'll
sure.
be there for sure, 100%. And thank you so much.
Nice rude questions, I can't stand polite ones, because they don't lead anywhere. Ask really nasty questions, and why on earth got you to stay married, you know?
I'll prepare then. You're better, yeah.
Good one. Good one. Oh, looking forward to it. Have a great trip.
Good.
And
Thank you, John.
thanks everyone. Thanks for joining us here on Bangkok Experts.
Yeah, thank you so much. See you soon.
Recording stopped.
Wow.
Okay, goodbye.
Thanks. Thanks guys. Bye.
Bye.
It's still on. I'm just going to keep it running. Okay.
Wow, wow. Spent all my life. Never a week went by without watching something with John Cleese on the TV. Amazing. It's quite surreal when you do something like that, because it's like, oh
It's like
wow.
your mate down the pub, isn't it?
Yeah, well, he is a seemingly very down to earth, normal old gent. In fact, he looks quite a lot like my dad. Oh, yeah, that would explain it. Next. Have we been removed now? I think we got more, like 20 minutes, 18, 17. Oh. I look like Eric Morgan, do I? How wonderful. That's a compliment. Eric Morgan was a fucking genius. Very funny man. Come and enjoy the peaceful view. Jesus. That's worked very well today. Did we get it all?
Just saving it.
Have you got it audio or visual or both?
They were recording it, so they'll send us their.
Oh really? Bloody hell, that's so cool.
You can have that.
I think that was better than doing an interview, you know. It was much more of a flowing conversation. I know we didn't get to ask much of what we had on that list, but I much prefer it when it's like that, just a general sort of chit chat.
Yeah, I thought it was cool.
And knowing psychology as I do, I think he actually really did enjoy it.
You did. You made him laugh. You can say that now.
Did I? I don't remember that.
You made John Cleese laugh.